everybody, hope you're having a nice day. So we are back to doing a bit more old school vlogs here today. I am, as promised, doing a recorded sew along. So I would love to keep doing the live sew alongs, but I just can't keep up with that schedule at the moment. So this is an alternative where I can slot one in and we can pop it up on our YouTube channel when I have the chance. So I am today going to be making the Whitley top. The Whitley top you can get hold of through our regular PDF patterns on our online shop, or it's part of Stitch School. So if you're a member of Stitch School, and for as little as £5 a month, you can get your hands on this pattern. And the Whitley top is a very simple, basic woven top, but it has different bust cups. So if you're a fuller bust or a smaller bust, you can kind of get a different bodice front from the standard. So the standard sew over it bust cup is a B cup. So that's what I've cut out because we obviously fit a lot of the patterns, or all of the patterns, on me. So I'll be fine with that. And yeah, I'm going to make the V-neck version. And also I've got some questions. We put a shout out, and I'm now like, where have I put them? I have so many questions that I had out, but I shall find them. Oh, here they are. We put a shout out on Instagram about this and said that I'd be answering some questions as I sew along. So that's what we're going to do. So let's get started just like we would in the live sew alongs. I am just going to mark my darts. So like I said, I'm making the V-neck version and the B cup bodice, and I'm making a size 10, which is closest to my size at the moment. I've got a bit of a fuller bust at the moment, so size 10 sew over patterns is a better fit. I am quite narrow here, and actually I'm wearing, I should show you, I'm wearing the Eve hack that I made in lockdown, and I've realised that because I'm quite narrow across the back, it was just a bit too low. And so what I've done is I've taken, with a safety pin, just pinched it up there, and that's just pulled the whole thing up. But yeah, if any of you are finding that things are low and gaping too much, if you pull them up and take in the back, if you're narrow across here, then that will often change the fit for the better, for the good. So I've done that. I'm going to take this off, and we can make we can start with the darts. Just realised I haven't got a ruler. I need a ruler for my dart, don't I? Right, hang on a second, let's grab a ruler. Oh, it's just like the live sew along, guys. I'm equally not quite prepared enough. Oh, where is it? There it is, up here. Up. So marking darts, we mark darts. I always mark them first. Sometimes I mark them like this, which is where I take the point of the dart, or the apex of the dart, and do one line to the notch, and then on the other one, like that. And the other way I do it is I fold it already, and I basically like so, line up those notches, find the apex of the dart, lay it down on the table, and then, oh, excuse me, a bit snuffly today. Jasmine's brought back a cold from nursery. And then I draw the lining that way. So then I don't have a line to kind of match up on both sides, but I'm confident that the way that I've pinned it, it's lined up correctly. And then I just go in, and on the other side you can just line it up. So it's whichever you prefer. This one, I guess, is if you're a bit nervous or you're first doing darts straight away, this might be a better technique for you because it's a little bit more thorough, and it will make sure that even if you haven't pinned it properly at the beginning, you're going to pin it properly throughout. Okay, so that's that. This is my fabric, by the way. I forgot to say, guys, we have got some lovely Whitley fabrics up there. So just to let you know about what we're doing with our fabrics, we are going to continue doing what we've been doing through lockdown, and that's now kind of fallen into a nice little pattern where if I'm doing a sew along, whether that's live or pre-recorded, we'll get in 2 or 3 fabrics that are suitable for that pattern so that you can get your hands on those if you want to. Also, we'll sell the fabrics that are relevant to any samples that we have released for new patterns or whatever the samples are made in. So we're going to try and always have a selection of fabrics on there, and we're also thinking of doing something oldies but goodies. So I know that there are some things, fabrics that I can still get hold of, or rather we can still get hold of, and we've still got samples and things made up in them, and you'll see them used up on the grid on Instagram or on other materials that we're using to promote a pattern. And yeah, we want to get them back in because so many of you ask us about them. So keep an eye out for not golden oldies but goodies, I think I'm going to call it. We were talking about it yesterday. Right, let's sew those darts. So reverse at the beginning of a dart but not at the end. Okay. So what I'm hoping to do in this sew along is get up to the point where I've put a sleeve in. But I am going to try, I don't know, I'm making it on my vlogging camera. So I didn't reverse there, guys, so I'm just going to tie a knot in these 2 threads here. I'm using my vlogging camera and I don't know how long the battery's going to last. So, and obviously I haven't got a spare battery, which is annoying. I think I need to get one for next time. But because this isn't sort of live streaming, it's using, it's recording it, and yeah, I couldn't do it on my phone. There wouldn't be enough space, so that's why I'm going back to my old vlogging camera to do it. Off we go. So tying a knot in those, and if you might not have noticed what I did before is I put a pin in that knot and pulled it down. I know, and then it gets stuck. I'm not pulling it down. I'm going to try and pull it down now. There we go. So those are our darts, okay? Now the interest of speed, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go straight on and I'm going to do shoulder seams. Not shoulder seams, I need to do the back, don't I? No, I'm not going to do that, guys. I will... What could I do? I'm just trying to think the best way so I'm not going back and forth in the iron too much. Let's overlock the back edges of the back bodice pieces, the centre back edges, and then I'll stitch that seam up, and then I can join that to the shoulder seams, and then we can do a load of ironing at the one go. Obviously, if you're doing this without having to think about what's interesting for anyone else, then you don't need to worry about this order. You can just follow the order of the instructions. So why I love this pattern, or rather why we designed it, is because I think everyone needs a staple woven pattern for a top. This is the centre back seam, guys. I'm just going to overlock them singly, being careful not to take off any of the seam allowance. So yeah, and I wanted us to have something that was easier to fit, so you didn't have to do full bust adjustments because you've got a bigger cup size option, and we wanted to do 2 different neckline options so that if you do like a big neck you can do that, and if you like a round neck you can do that too. Conscious that you might not be able to hear me over that. Apologies if you can't. Do the other one. There we go. Done. Done, done, done. So, I can now take my 2 back pieces and join them along those centre back edges that we've just overlocked. So I'm going to pin them together, and I'm going to put a double pin where the notch that marks the back neck opening, just so I know. To be honest, that's where you're starting anyway, but that's marking. So let's answer a question. whilst I'm doing this. Fitting across the arms. How to increase the size of the bicep, increasing the size of the armholes, and setting the sleeves. Well, we actually cover this in Stitch School, and it's not something that I can kind of easily answer. By the way, guys, the seam allowance, like it is with most of our patterns, is 1.5 centimeters on most of the seams. It's a bit like a full bust adjustment. You're going to have to slash into the sleeve at 2 points to add more volume. So you're kind of slashing into the sleeve in a kind of intersection like that and opening it out to add more volume to that part of the sleeve, because you don't need it here. So you kind of taper it back to the original width. So you sort of open up the width around the bicep, so the top of the sleeve, and then you're going to need to take it back in to the original width by just redrawing the lines down to the sleeve hem. But it is much easier to explain by actually physically doing that adjustment. And so if you're a member of Stitch School, you'll be able to access that tutorial. It's on the standard subscription service. All the little tutorials like that are, so you can have a look on there. Okay, we've done that. So let's now draw in our shoulder seams. Just thinking we could actually, no, we can't do the side seams because we need to press the darts. So now just match up our shoulder seams and pin those in place, right sides together. How do you get the V-neck so that it sits crisply? Well, guys, I'll be doing that with you. So it's all in the clipping, really. That's what I think. It's all in the clipping and then pressing. But yeah, I'm going to try and get that facing on with you guys. In fact, once we've sewn the bodice together, that's the first thing. I'll go straight onto the neckline, even if normally you might put the sleeve in first, and then the facing in last. It doesn't really matter which order those two go in. But yeah, I'll do that so that we definitely get that done. 1.5 centimeters, guys, for this. We'll overlock those seam allowances together afterwards. Just trimming off all my tails. I like to do that normally as I go along, but I've forgotten. So now I can do all my ironing. So I think what I might do is just put this down and then bring the iron into shot so you can see it. Just bear with, guys, I'm just getting it. Got my little tabletop ironing board. That's my new love of my life. The Sewalong tape ironing board. It's so good because it means you guys can see what I'm doing. Okay. So I'm filming this today, guys, on the day that we've released our newest PDF, the general release of our Peggy Trousers. And I'm not wearing any because I was thinking, well, I'm not wearing any for now because I'm just working from home today, and I kind of wanted to dress the top half up because I knew I'd be filming something for you guys. But yeah, I'm absolutely in love with our Peggy Trousers. I just think they're great. And just nice to have some trousers that are slightly looser fitting. So we'll make sure there's a link to them in the description box. But yeah, you can get your hands on them. And we've got some really nice wool and kind of crepes that you can make them out of on the website as well. Right, where are we at? Here we are. Oh, I didn't overlock. Okay, I can overlock those, never mind. we'll overlock the shoulder seams at the after we've done this bit. So let's just press those towards the back. So shoulder seams generally always go towards the back of the garment. Then we've got to press the seam open down the centre back that we sewed, and we can press in the neck opening at the same time. If you've overlocked it, you could just keep it as a single hem around this top neck opening, because you've got that overlocking and that's nice and neat. There's no need to tuck things under. But if you've sometimes if you zigzag, especially on a single layer of cloth, it's not so neat. So you might want to do a little double hem there. And if you do that, you just need to snip into the seam allowance at the bottom of the neckline opening, so level basically where those notches are. So we can stitch that now. And then we do press the dart down, and if you notice I'm pulling this so that we're really making sure that this is getting open and flat from that side. And the same on this side. Okay. So we need to now do the side seams and the back neck opening. So I'm just going to move the overlock over there. Oh, lift this up. And do this. I'm going to do the back neck opening. So the back neck opening, we want to stitch down the middle of the seam allowance. Then we're going to pivot and come across the bottom there and then back up. So we're going to do a U shape like that. So let's do that. Do a little reverse at the beginning. Yeah, answer another question. Someone's asked about the best fabric for this pattern and whether it should be woven or knit, and it does need to be woven. This is a woven pattern, and the reason why you've got to sort of stick to that is that a knit pattern would have generally something called negative ease in, or at least no ease, and that means that because the fabric stretches, you don't need to allow for extra room in the fabric for comfort and being able to move. So a woven pattern, depending on what it is, will have a certain amount of ease so that you can move. Otherwise, you imagine something is so closely fitting to the contours of your body and it's not got any give in the fabric, you're not going to be able to move. So this would be too baggy and loose, and also the facing wouldn't work in a knit fabric. You could maybe make it out of a Roma ponte if it was a very structured Roma ponte, but it really should be a woven fabric. So that's my back neck opening now, guys. Okay. And now we're going to do the side seams. Okay. So just making sure that those side seams are aligned, are all edges, and we've got a notch in the middle there to make sure you're aligned there. And I'm going to flip it so that I'm pinning the other side. So when I'm pinning, I'm always thinking, how is this going to be on the sewing machine? And I want to make sure all the fabric is over on the left, off the sewing machine. Let's ask another one. How to get the bust dart right, doing a full bust adjustment, grading it back into the waist, and how to lower the dart. Well, that's quite a lot of things there. Again, with that question is another, we've done that, covered that on Stitch School, so it's better. Again, it's the same slashing and pivoting that you're doing, like you do in the bicep adjustment, where you need to add more volume, but then obviously you don't want to, once you've added that volume, when you've opened the pattern up, it generally makes everything wider, but you need the width around the bust, but then you don't then. So whatever extra you've added kind of in the side seam kind of circumference or distance across the width there, that needs to be subtracted then from the bottom, so you sort of mark in on the new pattern and then redraw those lines so that it comes in. So you will have something that looks like that, but when the dart's in and your body is in, it will fit. But yeah, the same, moving darts as well. You can essentially trace darts and move them down, but it's all these sort of questions where altering the pattern, it's really difficult for me to answer them without actually physically doing it. But again, Stitch School, it's where we've got it. Just coming down over the darts using the seam allowance of 1.5 centimetres, 5/8 of an inch. Oh, I need another cup of tea. I really need another cup of tea. Today's a struggle. Did not sleep well. Jasmine the little monkey was up early. Coco was crying in my ear through a lot of the night. Not crying, but just meowing and purring and being annoying. To make sure she's not in the room tonight. We've also had questions about adjusting the shoulders. So again, with shoulders, you can do a slashing and pivoting technique. If you want to narrow your shoulders, you can just bring it in. And as long as it's not more than normally you'd want to take maybe 1.5 centimetres. If you're going to go up to like over 2 centimetres, you are going to affect the sleeve head, and you'll have to make adjustments to that, which is more complicated. But if you're just talking about bringing it in a little bit, then you don't need to worry too much about the fact that you will have changed the armhole circumference. But one thing you can do is measure the circumference with the back and the front bodice pieces around the armhole, and then whatever you've taken in, redraw that line on the pattern and then measure that. So you sort of put your tape measure around, you upstand it. Where's my tape measure? Here. You sort of put it like that and measure around the curve. And then if you need to make it a little bit bigger to sort of get it back, you can build it up from underneath just slightly, or you can scoop it away a bit underneath. But usually with about 1 centimetre or so, you're not going to need to, you'll still be able to get your sleeve head in and it's not going to drastically change things. But of course it will bring things up. I do think of the Whitley as a bit like a block. We talk about pattern blocks in that they're like basic shapes to then create patterns from. So a pattern cutter will have a block that's a very basic shape with darts or without darts, and you work from that to create another pattern. But if you're trying to work out how to fit yourself, often what you do in a pattern cutting fitting class is you'll make a block for yourself, and then the changes that you make to that you'll be able to then change on future patterns, because you'll be able to lay your block over and sort of know that you have to have the bust start here, or you have to have done this full bust adjustment, and you can kind of relay the differences across. I'm actually like, I'm doing yoga here with my legs, stretching to get that foot pedal over there. Just realised I've got the iron that's still switched on down by my foot. Taking a bit of a risk here. Just overlocking those side seams together, both sides. Okay, and then we are going to trim those tails, and then we can press our side seams towards the back, and then we can move on to facings. Funny angle this, but that way I can slot it on to the end over that. Okay, that's done. So let's turn it through so we can just see what stage we've got to. Cute! I do love this kind of random, it's like a kind of irregular painterly polka dot almost splodge. Love it, it's really pretty, and I think it'll go really nicely with jeans. So yes, that is a top, guys. Already we've got to a stage where we have a top. So now we need to do the facings, prepare the facings. So we need to interface these facing pieces, which I have not done. In fact, I don't know, I need to just quickly check. It's funny, I used to be a person that's very anti using interfacing because I don't like how it stiffens things, but this interfacing that we sell at work on our website is really lovely and soft and really doesn't have that effect. It's not that cheap papery stuff, it's really soft filing. So we've got this piece and we've got the two little pieces there. So let me just go and see what I've got in terms of interfacing. Some little scraps here. I'm going to just cut a couple of these. I find it, especially when you're using kind of non-woven interfacing, so Vilene interfacing that doesn't have a grain, I find it much easier just to use the actual fabric as the pattern, because it just sticks to the Vilene a lot better, and it's quicker to cut it out then. I find that the paper doesn't really, because it's such a lightweight interfacing, it doesn't really, it moves away from the paper, and so you have to pin it quite a lot. Like that, it's perfect. So we've got that one. What else have we got in the questiones? Oh, do you have any maternity or nursing hacks? Well, we do actually. When I was pregnant, we released a couple of patterns. The Lily and the Blossom, both of which are, I'm trying to think actually, yeah, they're both breastfeeding friendly, nursing friendly, and they're also suitable for bump, so you can use them before and after baby has come. And then I also did, I think it's on a blog, or is it on a, we'll link to it in the description. I can't quite remember whether it's on a blog or whether it's on a on something else, but we've got a shift hack, and actually the hack that I did for the shift, you could actually do that for the Whitley for this. Basically what I did is I drew a line under the bust here, and then I put a pleat in it. So I basically separated the shift pattern, so made up the top as a very short bodice, and then the bottom half of it, obviously I added seam allowance to both this section and that section. I extended in the middle, so I added some to the centre front and created an inverted box pleat, and that added the fit for underneath the bust and then the extra room for the bump. And then I also put ties on, so you could tie it kind of round underneath the bump, and it looks really cute. I'm really happy with that. I had a few of them and I wore them quite a lot. And I passed all my maternity clothes on to friends afterwards to wear, and I think that's been a popular one. I have no idea where it's got to. I can see the flashing of my battery, so it may be, guys, that I will have to stop filming today and need to get my hands on another battery really for this instance. But once that says no longer, you can't film anymore, once that battery goes dead, I'll probably have to wait quite a while for it to recharge, so I'll come back tomorrow and film the rest, because it'd be nice, and then it'd be nice for you guys to see me finish a little bit more. I wanted to definitely do the facing with you. Oh, Might not get the sleeve done. I need to have no idea how long I've been sewing for. It's quite hard because normally when I'm doing the live sew-alongs I've got a little time gauge so I can see how long I've been going for. So I'm just going to now take the interfacing, rough side going down. I'm going to place it on the back of these two little back neck facing pieces. And then I'm going to let's do that bit. Ooh, I take the steam down actually. I've not got steam. And then slightly lighter setting because this stuff can melt. So I'm on quite a hot setting at the moment, so I'm just being a bit delicate. That's good. And then just do the same with this. That's good. And this one. Just, you find sometimes with this filing interfacing that it does sort of stretch a bit when you iron it, so you just might need to trim it back down again if it's kind of hanging over the edges a little. Let's just put that down so I've got a bit more space and can see what I'm doing. Yeah, I just need to trim that down a bit. Okay. Hey guys, as I thought, the battery went. So I'm going to finish off though the neckline with you. I think this is going to be quite a long video, so I'm just going to do the neckline, and then I probably won't get a chance to do the sleeves because like I said, it will be quite a long video, but I will do the sleeves and I'll make sure we put that up on Instagram so you can see it finished. And then next time I do a sew along, I'll make sure I do a sleeve insertion with you. There will be in one of the sew alongs that I've done over the course of this year, and there is about 75 videos up there on YouTube, there will be one with me doing a sleeve somewhere on there. Right, okay, so we have what I did. I think we were putting the interfacing on, weren't we? So I put the interfacing on, and then I placed these right sides together. I think we talked about that. I stitched them, I pressed them open, and then I overlocked around the outside edge there of the facing. So I'm now going to place that right sides together with the raw edges aligning. Okay, and then just line that up all the way around. Da, da, da. Okay, I'm just going to make sure that my shoulder seams are aligned, and so on the bodice that's going towards the back, and on the facing that's just being pressed open. And then when I get to the back neck, I'm just going to turn back that seam allowance, which is 1.5 centimeters. I'm just going to turn that back so it's sitting flush with the opening. So if I show you that, okay, I'll just pin this side. Now I haven't got instructions with me, and I'm therefore going to make an educated guess that the neckline seam allowance is 1 centimetre, because it usually is with our patterns. But forgive me if you're following with the instructions and you're like, it's not, it's 1.5 centimetres. But no, I'm pretty sure it will be 1 centimetre. I'm very excited about wearing this top with this cardigan that I'm wearing. I'm wearing a Pussy Bird blouse, and because it's cold I've got a vest underneath. Normally though that really bugs me when the vest, just put that back. The vest shows, ruins the neckline, doesn't it? But this cardi, yeah, I think will go really nicely with this fabric. A nice baby pink, pale pink, picks out the pinks of the spots. Right, that's done now, so I can go ahead and sew that. So I'm going to start at one neck opening, lining up with my centimetre seam allowance. Okay, just coming around this first corner. Carrying on. I think I sound a little bit less croaky today, or rather bunged up. Definitely feeling better than I did yesterday. Yesterday? It was the day before I think I was. Today's Friday, the day that I said I was going to put it up. So it was Wednesday I think when I was filming, so yeah, feeling better than then. But it's definitely got colder here in the UK. Woo! Hence why I've got 3 layers on. I even put the heating on the other day, blitzed it for a little bit. But I have to say I'm getting very excited about using my wood burner for the first time here. Now this wood burner has followed me through. Poppy! Poppy! No. Surprise, Poppy's licking the sofa. This wood burner has, yeah, followed me around the places I've lived. So I first got it in the flat that I lived in Hackney, and then in the last house, and then here, and each time I go through the pain of having to get it removed and then reinstalled. But it was something that my grandfather left my sister and I some money, and we wanted to buy something that we remembered him by, so we both got wood burners, and as a result I'm like, it comes with me wherever I move. Okay, so that has now been stitched. Now this is the key thing to getting this right, is clipping. So we've got to clip in where there's curves, and that's round this part of the neckline. So I'm snipping up to the seam, no further, like that, and the same on here. Okay, so about every centimetre there. Then I don't need to worry about that front edge, I just need to worry about the V. So the V, this is the key to getting it absolutely sitting flat when it's tucked in. So I'm going to snip up to, but not beyond, about 1 millimetre from the stitch line there. And then, now that I've clipped, I'm going to understitch. Now it's always best if you understitch before you press, so you don't accidentally overstretch the seam. So I'm now going to understitch. So I'm going to pull the seam allowance towards the facing, and I'm going to stitch 2 or 3 millimetres from the edge. Not the edge, sorry, the seam. So you have to keep stopping and making sure that the seam allowance is going towards the facing. And then what we're doing with the understitch is we're stitching that facing to the seam allowance, and that helps it sit inside and anchors it to the seam allowance. Okay, so I'm coming up to that V, and I'm going to make sure right at the point where I hit that V, so right there, I'm putting my needle in, I'm lifting up. I'm now going to make sure that the seam allowance on the other side is is coming towards the facing, and now I'm pivoting and up I go the other side. So it's really important that you do hit it at that V, and some people like to kind of stitch one into there and then come down and do that and not do the pivot. So you can do that if you prefer. It's where you get lots of snippies. You end up finding that the seam allowance is misbehaving, and it can easily quite flip to the body side. So do keep checking that your seam allowance is facing your facing. Okay. So that is now done, guys. So now what we do is the pressing portion of it. But already, if I turn that in and I show you, look at how that V is looking. It's already sitting really well before I've even pressed it. Okay? That's all in the clipping and all in the, all in the clipping and all in the understitching. Making sure that you pivot at that perfect point. Okay, and so now I'm going to press. So tucking it on the end of the ironing board, and you want to be careful that you don't stretch your neckline. Now, some of you might say you didn't do your stay stitching. Just realised that I didn't do my stay stitching. You might have wanted to stay stitch your neckline before you did anything to it. I am a bit lazy with stay stitching, and it's not always lazy, but I sometimes feel like stay stitching is just an extra stage of potentially over handling the fabric. And when I'm using something that, like cotton, that's got a certain amount of stability to it, I don't worry about it. But if I was using something like a rayon, which is, you know, really got a lot of give on the bias, I really might go, well, I would stay stitch, but I might even go as far as doing some Vilene tape and taping the neckline to stop it from stretching, because V-necks, whether they're at the front or the back, they have the potential to really stretch, because basically you're hitting the fabric at its most stretchy point on the bias, which is the 45 degrees from the selvage, and that's when woven fabric can really give. Okay, let's tuck that in. Oh, it's all sitting. You see, I think one of the questions was how to get it to sit inside. Was there somebody that said that? Or maybe it was a question about bias, binding versus facing. I think there was a question about that and I've forgotten to answer it, but basically facings often come out, and I know they annoy people with that, and you can anchor them here at the shoulder seams and you can anchor it at the back, but you can't really anchor it throughout the rest of the garment because you are going to see those little catch stitches. So if it's cotton, it will probably sit in nicely. If it's rayon, you may find that it curls out, and you've got the chance to just go, right, do you know what, I don't want to do a facing, I could do a biased finishing on the neckline. So stitching, folding, making some bias strip out of your fabric, folding it in half, wrong sides together, pressing it so that you've got a nice folded edge, and then aligning the raw edge with the raw edge of your neckline, stitching that in place, understitching it, and then tucking the whole thing in a top stitch or a hand stitch. Now, you've got that option, and that way you're not going to come across this issue of, you know, facing coming out. But there we go, guys, that's the stage that I'm going to stop at. It's pretty much done, and obviously if you want to watch the whole thing, you can watch it on Stitch School. But hopefully for this you saw the simplicity of this pattern. I was able to answer some questions, and let us know what you think of the recorded sew along. I know it's not live, and so it hasn't got that wonderful opportunity to be chatting to you live, but it's a way of us getting getting something else out to you and being able to share a bit more skill and a bit more yeah, hopefully inspiration on fabric and that sort of thing. So look forward to seeing you all soon. I will be live on Monday and Tuesday for our sew along for our Peggy Trousers.